Hi everybody. Today I'm going to be addressing one of the things I don't really like about the Arctic Leopard Pro S. And it's not really an issue or a problem. What it is the lack of storage space under the seat. For one, you've got this big ignition, or not ignition, but lock cylinder here, which all it does is pop this lid. So technically we can get rid of that and just use a pull cable, because there is a cable that actually goes to the lock mechanism. Yes, you would lose the security of having a key to release that, so I guess somebody could steal your battery, but they could just steal the whole bike. So I'm going to lose this, but I don't care. The part that I'm going to be installing today is a prototype, so it may change slightly from the production version if it needs to. You can keep this if you want to keep this, but it's completely optional. What it does is it comes down here and gives you 3 times the volume for storage. And if you remove this key setup, you get about 4 times the stock volume. You do have to cut right here. So you lose this piece of factory plastic, but you retain all of your rear fender, and you can run the side plastics with it. So we're going to get into this installation here and see how everything fits and show you step by step. I'm actually going to laser scan this fender and 3D print a template, which will be included when I sell this kit. So you can put the template on here, trace your line so you know exactly where to cut. Make it semi-foolproof. I'm going to pull some dimensions. I've already scanned all this inside, but I'm going to pull some dimensions off here real quick just to kind of rough calculate the volume. And the bottom of the seat here is basically flush. You can see it's flush with this, which means when your seat is in here, you actually have less volume for storage than it looks like. You can't store stuff all the way up to here. You can really only store it up to this line. So let's tear this thing apart. Here you can see the new part, the aluminum part, versus the factory fender. And you can kind of get a gauge for the difference in volume. And this is just a prototype at this phase. I haven't welded the corners up yet. But I'm going to show you kind of how it installs, and I have not even test fit it yet, so hopefully it fits right, or I may look kind of like an idiot. But so first step, remove that fender, fairly easy. Second step is going to be loosening these 2 nuts. Now, I recommend you do that with these still tight, so these studs don't try to rotate or anything. So we're just going to loosen them and thread them up about 1/8 of an inch. Then we'll take this part, and it should hopefully slot right in. Yep. And it fits just like that. Now you can kind of see where the storage comes from. And right off the bat, you can see how much deeper that is. I'll throw some screws in here real quick. And now that this is in, you have to reach back in here and tighten up these 2 jam nuts again, which there's not a ton of room, but there is enough room to pretty easily do it. Again, sorry for my terrible filming skills. I'm trying to do all this while holding a phone in one hand. Okay, that's it. Now you can see I've extended this all the way up to the battery to give a lot more room, because this one has this little shelf to keep you from getting anywhere near the battery. So you gain an extra couple of inches forward. Come on, focus. Wow. So you gain a couple inches forward storage. Now, I wouldn't recommend putting anything tiny in there, because there is going to be a gap, especially where these are slotted. So tiny stuff could fall through, but if you put tiny stuff in there, put it in a Ziploc bag or wrap it in something. Now, obviously, I have not cut that fender yet to fit, but that's kind of what it looks like without it. Now, I could go deeper and give more room, but I kind of had to find a balance point between aesthetics, making it look nice, and internal volume. If there's a demand for it, I may make a deeper version just so you can fit more. I know a lot of people have asked if the bike battery charger will fit in there, and I don't think it will, and that's simply because there's not enough room between the studs that hold the battery in and this part of the subframe here, which is unfortunate. The charger seems kind of fragile, a little delicate, so I don't know if it would be a good idea to try to ride the bike with the charger in there. Maybe on the street, maybe, but I think you would definitely shorten the lifespan of the charger just by vibrating it to death. So now I'm gonna laser scan the bottom of this fender and draw up the template, 3D print it, and show you how to cut the fender. And this will be basically done. I still need to weld this up, but for now, it'll work not welded. So I saved you guys having to see any of the boring footage of scanning this and modeling this and printing it. But here it is. This side is not flat. It is curved to match this curved surface. And these edges are tapered, so you shouldn't be able to put it in wrong. If you try to put it in this way, it's not going to fit. So it goes this way. And the idea is you can take, I just so happen to have a gold Sharpie, and you just trace this edge here. Now, you want to do a straight cut, but you want it to be flush with this edge here. So there's your cut line. And you could cut this with a grinder with a cutoff wheel or a hacksaw. I'm gonna use a bandsaw. Tons of options. It's just thin, easy to cut plastic. So I'm gonna go chop this real quick and then bolt it back on. This is just a little portaband with a base. But let's see if I can do this one-handed. Not bad for one-handed, not perfect. Now you can see how this fits together. You got your freshly chopped fender, and you've got these little slots. And it literally just bolts on just like it used to. And it sandwiches the new aluminum piece. And since it's so thin, the original bolts should work. And there we have it. Looks pretty good. And we got lots of storage now. I think what I'm going to do next is take it back off to take this lock cylinder off and figure out a nice little pull tab that I will probably include with this, so you can choose if you want to run it or not. This piece, that is. I'll throw the seat on real quick and take a look at it. Now, if it were powder coated black, it would blend in pretty well. And again, this could all change by the time I release this product, but I may offer it raw aluminum, just like it is, or powder coated black. And you can pick. Obviously, powder coated will cost a little more because it's a lot more work. I think it looks pretty good. Oh yeah, one last thing to do. Let's check it with the side plastics. So to fit the side plastics, you are going to have to modify this one attachment point right here, where my finger is, you're gonna have to shave the slightest amount off of there. A little 1/8, 3/16 of an inch. You don't have to get into the bolt hole, but that mounting point is now gone. That's on the part that we cut off. And that point is about right here. So you retain every other mounting point. You still have this one back here in the fender. That locks in. You have this one that's so close to the one we're losing, it's not gonna be an issue. Got this one here. And you've got all your ones up front. So I don't see that being an issue at all if you want to run the side plastics. And here's another thing. If you're having trouble getting this on, make sure these aren't flip-flop backwards, because they're notched for clearance there and there. So I'm going to trim that one just a little bit, just the slightest amount, and put it back on. Well, I messed up. I thought I was recording and I wasn't, so you don't get to see me snip this, but all I did was use these guys and snipped it, and all I took was that much off. So not a big deal at all. Just made it almost flush to the hole. And there you have it. With the side plastics on, it almost completely disappears. Not terrible. Okay, now I'm going to pull this lock cylinder out. You can see how much room this thing occupies. It's not huge, but it's hanging out right in the middle of where you need to put stuff. So without that, that's going to open up a lot more room. And the cable, wherever it went, let's see how hard it is to release. There's the end of the cable. It's not bad at all. All right, welded up. Not the prettiest, but all the filler rod I had was too big for this thin stuff. So we'll grind it smooth and mount it up and be done. There we go. Got it all welded up. You can see inside the welds. And now I get to load it up and test it. That's my favorite part of doing all this, is testing. Some of you might have noticed this little guy. This is still just 3D printed plastic. But I notice a lot of mud gets packed in here in the motor. And there's a cavity that gets filled up, and it's really hard to get that mud out. So this little guy just bolts onto 2 existing bolts that are already there for the battery tray, and will block all that mud from getting packed in there. And I'm working on a mud guard.